They're everywhere, brand new, still in factory wrapping. Thousands of gas outboards nobody wants. In dealer lots across America right now, there's $2.8 billion worth of engines just sitting there, collecting dust. Some have been there over 200 days. The same outboards that had 6-month waiting lists in 2021. The ones people fought over. Now dealers can't even give them away at 40% off. And here's what nobody's telling you. The few people still buying them, industry insiders are calling them the worst kind of customers, the ones who can't do basic math. Because while these engines rot in warehouses, something massive is happening to the entire marine industry. A shift so violent, so complete, that what you thought you knew about boat motors is already obsolete. And if you're thinking about buying one of these gas outboards in 2025, you need to see this first. For 7 decades, the gas outboard motor was untouchable. It was the heartbeat of recreational boating, the engine that turned weekend fishermen into tournament champions, that transformed family vacations into lifelong memories. Mercury's Verado series, Yamaha's revolutionary F-series, Suzuki's bulletproof DF350A. These weren't just motors, they were legends. In 2020, gas outboards commanded 94% of the recreational marine market. Think about that number, 94%. Nearly every boat cutting through American waters was powered by internal combustion. The technology had been perfected over generations. A Mercury 450R could push a 21-foot bass boat to 80 miles per hour. Smooth as silk. Reliable as sunrise. A Yamaha 425 XTO delivered 600 pound-feet of torque, enough to pull a 40-foot center console through 8-foot seas without breaking a sweat. The prices made sense too. $28,000 for flagship power that would last 15 years, maybe 20 with proper maintenance. Mechanics knew every bolt, every gasket. Parts were everywhere. You could rebuild these engines in your garage if you had to. They were honest machines for honest work. Then came 2022, and the perfect storm nobody saw coming. Interest rates sat at 2.5%. Boat sales exploded like nothing the industry had witnessed since the 1980s. Every manufacturer ramped production. Mercury's plant in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin ran 3 shifts, 7 days a week. Yamaha expanded their Georgia facility. Suzuki couldn't build them fast enough. Dealers couldn't keep them in stock. Jim Harrison, who runs Freedom Marine in Houston, told me he had waiting lists 6 months long. "We were ordering everything we could get our hands on," he said. Customers were putting deposits on motors we hadn't even received yet. It was insane. The numbers backed up the frenzy. Marine retailers ordered 47% more inventory in 2022 than any previous year. Brunswick Corporation, Mercury's parent company, reported record profits. Their stock hit an all-time high of $112 per share. But by late 2023, something shifted. The phone stopped ringing with the same urgency. The eager customers with cash in hand disappeared. Yet the outboards kept arriving, container after container, shipment after shipment. What dealers didn't realize was that they were watching the beginning of the end. The last golden days of an era that had defined boating for 3 generations. While Mercury was celebrating V12 sales and Yamaha was back-ordered until Christmas, a revolution was quietly building in places nobody was watching. Not in Detroit or Wisconsin, but in Sweden, where a company called X-Shore was delivering 400 horsepower electric drives at half the operating cost of gas. In Germany, where Torqeedo's Deep Blue 100i was proving that instant torque and silent operation weren't just possible, they were superior. The old argument against electricity had always been ranged. Battery anxiety, they called it. But by 2024, that excuse was dead. The new lithium silicon batteries delivered 180 nautical miles on a single charge, more than most recreational boaters travel in a month. Then December 2024 hit like a hurricane. Marine fuel prices at docks across America reached $7.20 per gallon. A weekend fishing trip that used to cost $400 in fuel suddenly cost $900. Meanwhile, charging an electric outboard for the same distance? $35. The math was devastating, but fuel was just the first blow. Interest rates for boat loans climbed to 8.5%. That $45,000 gas outboard package now cost $73,000 over the loan term. Young buyers looked at the numbers and walked away. Older buyers, the industry's bread and butter, started doing something they'd never done before. They started asking questions. The maintenance requirements became the final nail. The 2024 EPA Tier 4 emission standards added 47 new components to gas outboards. Sensors, filters, catalytic systems. The engines that once ran for 1,000 hours with basic maintenance now needed service every 50 hours. A basic tune-up that used to cost $300? $1,800. If you could find a certified technician, the forums lit up with horror stories. A Verado owner in Florida posted that his 2024 model had been at the dealer for 3 months waiting for an emissions sensor. The engine had 12 hours on it. Total runtime, 12 hours. Total time in the shop, 3 months. Mark Stevens, who owns Port Charlotte Marina, watched the shift happen in real time. I had 3 customers walk away from deposits after calculating 5-year operating costs, he told me. All 3 went electric. These weren't tree huggers or early adopters. These were guys who'd owned gas boats for 30 years. The revolution wasn't coming. It was here. And the gas outboard industry was about to learn what Detroit learned in the 1970s. Ignore change at your own peril. Brunswick Marine's fourth quarter 2024 report read like a medical examiner's report. Gas outboard sales down 47% year over year. The numbers were brutal, but the reality in the warehouses was worse. Yamaha's distribution center in Georgia held 8,400 unsold units as of January 2025. Mercury's dealers were sitting on inventory that hadn't moved in 8 months. The average time an outboard sat on dealer lots had stretched from 22 days in 2021 to 247 days. The floor planning costs were crushing dealers alive. Tom Rodriguez at Freedom Boat Center in Texas was bleeding $12,000 a month just to store engines nobody wanted. "We've got $3 million in inventory that won't move," he said. "The bank doesn't care that the market collapsed. They want their money." Desperation set in fast. 35% off manufacturers' suggested retail became the starting point for negotiations. Some dealers in Florida started offering 2-for-1 deals on smaller horsepower models. Buy a 150, get a 90 free. Anything to move metal. 3 major Southeast dealers declared bankruptcy by December 2024. Longtime family businesses, gone overnight. While gas outboards collected dust, the competition accelerated. Pure Watercraft announced their partnership with General Motors' Ultium platform. 450 horsepower, 10-year battery warranty, over-the-air updates that actually improved performance over time. The price? $32,000, less than a comparable gas V8. The reputation damage was catastrophic. Consumer Reports' 2024 reliability rankings dropped gas outboards to below average for the first time in the publication's history. The most common failure point? Emissions control systems. The very technology meant to save gas engines was killing them. Then came the social media pile-on. A TikTok video titled "Why I Returned My $50,000 Gas Outboard" hit 4.2 million views in a week. The creator, a 30-year-old entrepreneur from Miami, detailed every failure, every dealer excuse, every $1,000 repair bill. The comments section became a support group for burned buyers. The death blow came from within. A leaked Mercury Marine internal memo, dated January 2025, laid it out in corporate speak that couldn't hide the panic. We must acknowledge the fundamental shift in consumer preference. Our gas portfolio is no longer sustainable at current production levels. Translation: we built too many engines for a world that no longer exists. The warehouse lights stayed on, but the customers had already gone home. Richard Hayes has analyzed the marine industry for 23 years. When I asked him to explain the gas outboard collapse, he didn't hesitate. "It's not that gas outboards became bad overnight," he said. "It's that everything else became better, while they became more complex and expensive." The industry perfected yesterday's technology while tomorrow arrived. The numbers tell a story of financial suicide. A 10-year total cost of ownership analysis shows the real damage. Gas outboard package, $127,000. Electric equivalent, $58,000. That's not a gap, that's a canyon. Insurance companies, seeing the fire risk data, now charge 40% more to cover gas-powered boats. The resale market has imploded. Gas outboards depreciate 35% in year one. Electric models are holding 85% of their value. The generational divide is even starker. Buyers under 45 years old? 78% are considering electric only. They grew up with Tesla. They understand software updates and battery management. To them, pulling a cord to start an engine feels like using a rotary phone. Meanwhile, the traditional buyers, the 60-year-old weekend warriors who built this industry, are aging out. Their kids don't want dad's gas-guzzling bass boat. They want efficiency, silence, and simplicity. They want to pull up to the dock and plug in, not argue with a mechanic about why the check engine light won't turn off. The regulatory tsunami is already visible on the horizon. California's 2027 zero-emission mandate for recreational marine isn't a suggestion, it's law. The European Union's 2026 restrictions effectively ban two-stroke engines and older four-stroke designs. The federal infrastructure bill allocated $400 million for marina charging stations, not fuel docks. Charging stations. At the Marine Technology Symposium in January 2025, the consensus was brutal. One presenter said it plainly. The customers still buying gas outboards in 2025? They're either unaware of the alternatives, locked into old thinking, or making an emotional rather than logical decision. The word stupid wasn't used on stage, but in the hallway conversations, among dealers drowning in inventory and manufacturers watching their stock prices crater, the sentiment was clear. Smart money had already left the building. The question wasn't whether gas outboards would survive. It was whether the companies that built them would pivot fast enough to survive themselves. History suggests most won't. Detroit in the 70s. Kodak with digital cameras. Blockbuster Video. The graveyard of industries that perfected the past is vast and unforgiving. Mercury announced Project Eclipse in January 2025. Full electric lineup by 2025. No more development of new gas platforms. Yamaha took a different gamble, partnering with Toyota's hydrogen fuel cell division. Honda made the cleanest cut of all. They're out of gas outboards entirely, focusing everything on electric integration systems. The pivot is violent, expensive, and probably too late for some. The holdouts will always exist. Classic boat enthusiasts who rebuild 1960s Evinrudes in their garage. Commercial operators in remote Alaskan waters where charging stations won't exist for decades. Speed record chasers who need every ounce of power density that gasoline provides. But they're becoming what vinyl records became to music, a specialty market with premium prices and limited production. Nostalgic? Not practical. As dealers desperately clear inventory, offering finance terms that would have been laughable 2 years ago, the fire sales reveal the true tragedy. These aren't bad engines. The engineering is remarkable. A modern four-stroke outboard is a masterpiece of metallurgy and precision. But masterpiece or not, they're solutions to problems that no longer exist, built for a world that's already gone. The gas outboard's decline wasn't about one technology beating another. It was about an industry that perfected incremental improvement while the world demanded transformation. They made engines 5% more efficient, while customers wanted 50% lower operating costs. They reduced emissions by fractions, while regulations demanded zero. Perhaps the real tragedy isn't that gas outboards are dying. It's that they spent their final years becoming everything they were never meant to be. Overcomplicated, overpriced, overwhelmed by regulations that turned simple machines into sensor-stuffed computers that happened to spin propellers. The workhorses that democratized boating for millions became victims of their own evolution. In the end, the market's message was clear. Innovation isn't just about making something better. Sometimes it's about knowing when to let go and start over. The dealers sitting on millions in dead inventory learned this lesson the hard way. The manufacturers scrambling to retool entire factories are learning it now. Will the last generation of gas outboards become collector's items or cautionary tales? Time will tell. But one thing is certain. The buyers walking into marine dealerships in 2025, checkbook in hand, ready to pay full price for a gas outboard. They're not looking at the numbers. They're not asking the right questions. And in an industry where a wrong decision costs $50,000, that's not nostalgia. That's just expensive ignorance.